some of y'all might know this gentleman from the prior video series that we did called Beyond Prison Probation and Parole. We did a feature on Danny Gonzalez. He's a successful entrepreneur, real estate investor. He has a lot of different ventures going on. Danny did federal time. We met in federal prison. Danny's been out about 17 years now, and he's been, man, since day one, he's been on his grind. He's a certified painter. So, Danny, just tell him a little bit about yourself, and so we can get into basically, I want you to be able to share your secrets, not secrets, but your tips and advice for success.
So yeah, so look, I've been out 17 years now, since September of 2003, and as soon as they opened the gate, I got off up and running, right? And what's the first thing they encourage us to do is to get employment, to get a job, because most of us come out with parole, and that's a requirement in parole. And if you don't have a job, your parole's gonna be breathing down your neck. So I was fortunate enough, right, through help of family and friends, to land a job paying $8 an hour. And I worked that job, and I engaged the process of becoming a productive citizen in society, right? And even though it was a little bit of money, but I was getting enough money to pay my cell phone, to get my license, and to do the things I needed to do, right? So what happens? I wanted to get a job that pays more, but at that time, it just wasn't for me. And I couldn't say I'm not gonna work if I don't get this much, because I didn't have that choice. All I had was a criminal history. I didn't have any experience in any type of work out here. So, you know, I took the job, and I made the most of it, right? But what happens when you engage the process and you start working, right? And you stay in your lane, right? And your parole starts giving you a little bit of freedom because you're doing what you need to do. The people around you, they also gonna notice your sacrifice. They're gonna notice your changed behavior, right? And opportunities are going to start being presented to you, right? So sometimes when we get caught off in negative things and we're not doing what we need to do, we're not going to recognize a good opportunity when it's presented to us, right? So one person presented another opportunity for a second job at a second shift, and I jumped on it right away. I didn't say I'm already working, or that's not making too much more than what I'm making now, I can't do two jobs. No, I immediately remember that when I used to run the streets, I didn't have one shift. I didn't have 8 hours that I'm gonna do. No, I did that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There was no days off. When my beeper rang, right? Whoever was beeping me for the product, I was gonna get it to them, however that looked, right? So I started doing that. I applied that principle to work, right? And one person gave me a second opportunity, and that second opportunity learned into a third opportunity, until I finally landed a union job, right, with DC9 into the apprenticeship program. That was a huge opportunity that afforded me a pay raise every 12 months that was going to earn me a top pay of, you know, 35, 40 plus dollars an hour, right? So now look, when I engaged the process of becoming a first year apprentice, at the same time, I was developing and learning a skill set. That skill set was going to feed me now, whether the company gives me a job or not, right? Right. So I was doing that for years and years and years, and I passed the apprenticeship program, right? And then when I was locked up and I was reading books, I'll share one that impacted me, that a lot of people know about it already, is Rich Dad Poor Dad. It talks about investment. It talks about business. It talks about real estate, right? I read that book, and I learned the lessons. You know, I also read 48 Laws of Power, you know, Andrew Carnegie, the 17, the Science of Success. I read a lot of material, right? So now it was time to put that knowledge and those books that I read when I was sitting in my 12 by 12 cell, when I was in the hole and I would read books. It was time to put those principles into action. You know, a principle about going the extra mile, constantly going the extra mile, and you're going to get a good result when you constantly put that principle to practice, right? So, you know, I said, you know what? Let me try my hand at real estate, you know, and I was working and I lined all my ducks in a row. I developed my credit, you know, I saved my my deposit, right? And I identified an area where it was a good opportunity where I was able to buy real estate, and I wasn't going to get overwhelmed with the payment, because sometimes people don't get into real estate because, you know, they get overwhelmed with how much it's going to cost every single month. And what you got to do at that point is you got to shift, and you got to be like, look, this is not the area that I could invest in, but in this area I could invest. And look, the area was 2.5 hours away. So now I had to get out the city. A lot of people don't want to get out their comfort zone. They don't want to drive 2.5 hours to go investigate an opportunity. But you know what? They used to put me on a bus in shackles, right? Outside the city, right? To the place where I invested in real estate in Pennsylvania. And I was in that prison for 78 months, for 6.5 years, right? So look, instead of going in shackles in a bus that I can't do nothing, I went in my own car, right? I stopped at Wendy's when I got hungry, and it was a little road trip, right? So I went out there. My friend that came home, he bought a property out there, and I was going out there to visit him. And one thing led to the next, and I lined up all my ducks. I had the job, I had the down payment, I had my credit score, and I had somebody in the area living there already that helped me to identify the property that I could invest in. You know, so I've been doing that. And aside from that, you know, I stay painting. I work for the company, but I paint for myself. And I started over 10 years ago of doing small projects. And the experience that I was getting at work with my skill set, I will put it into practice doing my personal side work. You see? And that also opened up another great opportunity for me where now I get work, whether they hire me or not, I still get phone calls. You know, so it's all about being
I
persistent.
mean, where you at today?